dropping. Feel the hum in your hands. This is 4D. Heat on my palms, grip locked, heart racing. Shoes hit the pedal, whole room shaking. Jersey on my back, hair pulled low and blazing. Every turn I take, got the ghosts I'm chasing. 4D in my veins, feel that fire when I play, when I move, when I break, when I bang through the lane. 4D on my skin, when I lose, when I win, I'm alive in the light of the game I'm in. 4D, 4D, 4D. It's different. Yeah, that's winning. From the couch to the checkered, I'm the storm when I wear it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the P1 Broadcasting Channel. You've got Murph, you've got Caleb Brashear standing in for Andrew Wood. It's the Bass Brothers, and we are back for a bashful track. It's the Monster Mile, Dover, Delaware, at twilight. Caleb, this track is fast, it's furious, and it eats cars, hence the name, the Monster Mile.
Yeah, this track is mainly used for NASCAR, and IndyCar did race here in the past, and there's a reason they don't race here anymore, Murph. It is a very fast track, as you said. It's a very dangerous track in these types of cars, but in the virtual world, well, we should see some good action. We should see a lot of carnage, per se. It's just the nature of Dover in any race that you go here, but it should be a fun one here tonight.
It should. A little bit of history about this place. Originally opened in 1969. It is 1 mile. Corners are banked at 24 degrees in the turns, 9 degrees of banking on the straightaway. The track record here outright held by Greg Ray, 1998 in a Dallara IR7, 19.622. As you mentioned, the track does have a long history with NASCAR racing, annually 2 NASCAR dates throughout its history. And it did play host to the IndyCars for 2 years, 98 and 99. And the cars basically, 2 things happened. First, they were judged to be too fast for the track. But it's concrete, Caleb, and it was also just too darn rough, even for those pre 2000s IRL cars, which were bulkier and sturdier anyway. It basically shook them to pieces. There were a lot of equipment failures, and so the series didn't come back after those 2 additions. But if you want to see an interesting, race, go look those up. They are available online tonight. We've got 75% fuel, so that means that we're looking at about 50 laps on a tank of gas. Also, we're going to be unlimited sets of tires. Tires are really not an issue here. If memory serves, and they're on the fixed setup, Caleb, if memory serves, tires are not the problem. It's engine management.
Yes, it is indeed. Now, last time we ran here in fixed, the fixed setup was not built to the track condition per se, and we actually had a radiator inlet that was too small, and it was very easy to overheat the engine. We shouldn't have that problem this time around, but it should be a thing of obviously fuel. If they can, we're estimating they can go about 50 laps on the shortened fuel tank, and you probably could save it to where you could make this race a 2-stop. If it goes green all the way, but it's probably going to be a 3-stop race for most of these guys. And if I do remember right, tire wear was a thing, but it wasn't massive fall off like we see typically around here in the stock cars, to where you lose upwards of 2 seconds a lap. It should be just, a couple tenths there, but the track still technically flat out, you just lose speed over time.
I can remember coming here in the fixed setup as Gary Lovern post lap 17.762, so closing in on the absolute track record here, held by Greg Ray. Actually, much faster than that, nearly 2 seconds, and that's a race lap. The outright Well, no, that is the outright track record, 19.622. As I recall it in the fixed setup, Caleb, the old fixed oval series before, when it still included 2 road courses, would come here, and they would come here a couple times a year. And I can remember those races being 100 laps long. They've since lengthened them, but at 100 laps, if you ran in Map 5, you could get 80 laps on a tank of fuel. And I won one of those races just by staying out in Map 5. You could keep on to the draft, and then coming in for a splash at the end and beat everybody off of pit road. That may be you may see a strategy somewhat like that in this race. We just saw Craig Forsyth qualify. We'll show Jeff Heisong in his qualifying attempts. You may see a strategy somewhat like that tonight, Caleb, where if it comes down to a fuel strategy run, some people might take fuel only. It is an interesting entry and exit to pit lane. You actually drive down into the pits. They are below the racing surface, and so it's very treacherous getting in and off of the pit lane. There are some special rules around how they'll have to do that. You're going to have to be on the apron when you go under that bridge, as I understand it, before you get to turn 3. And the other thing is, we've got 2 really short tracks, Dover being a mile, Gateway being 1.3 miles, to end the season. Ryan Kelly clinging to a 3-point lead over Kyle Clinworth as the session goes red, and we've got a grid. But keep that in mind, we've also got a championship fight on our hands, Caleb.
Yes, we do indeed. And I did want to briefly mention that you are correct on, is going to be a gentleman's agreement that you have to be below the bridge on your pit entry. They've decided to make that a rule for tonight, just to be extra safe on pit entry and nobody gets clobbered like I did in the fixed race tonight. And pit exit. That, I guarantee you, we won't see 1 or 2 cars. We will see a lot of cars spin on pit exit here, because pit exit in these things is not very easy here, Murph.
It is not. It is very, very slick. But hey, enough of talking about what can go wrong. We need to find out what will go wrong. On the pole, it's Kyle Clinworth, 207.012 miles an hour. Larry Yingling to the outside in the number 67 second row. Matt Wagner, Chris Stover. 2 very veteran drivers make up positions 3 and 4. Richie Hearn, the IndyCar real-life veteran, will start 5th. Nicholas Stockner 6th. Craig Forsyth is 7th. Gary Lover 8th. Bill Burrell 9th. And Frank Irwin Jr. is going to roll from 10th. 11th, Wayne Campbell. Jeff Heisong will go 12th. Shane Coker 13th. Joseph Morales 14th. And Kurt Rose 15th. One name I don't see on that entry list, Caleb. Ryan Kelly.
Yeah, he is not here tonight. Don't know why exactly, but he is not on the entry list, and that's going to be absolutely crucial for this championship provisional.
Yeah, it most certainly is. And you talk about being a championship leader. This is kind of a tough week for anybody in racing. If you're a racing fan, people are starting to make their way toward the Indianapolis Motor Speedway already. Matter of fact, the reason Andrew Wood is not here tonight, and Caleb Brashear has so graciously agreed to join us, is that Andrew has already started his trek from his home on the East Coast toward Indiana. And so people are starting to filter toward Indianapolis even today. A lot of people take the whole week off. Certainly, if you're coming in from out of town, you want to be here.
All right, man. Lights are back on the pace car. We're not going green this time. We are not going green.
You want to be here for Carb Day and enjoy all the festivities. So if you're driving in from the East Coast, man, Caleb, you better start driving now.
Yeah, and I think you and me will pretty much get there the day of, if not just slightly before. I should be getting there Saturday. You won't get there until Sunday morning. But a lot of the other people, like I know a lot of my teammates like Lichtenberg and Demer are already in Indianapolis at the Airbnb at the moment. So a lot of people have already started their treks. That's why, especially after the Indy 500 on iRacing, you see a lot of them. You guys see them take a break and they go to the real life races, or just take a break in general and take a break away from the IndyCar and the rectangle for a couple weeks, and then get back at it about mid-June, or usually the start of the following season.
You do. Barney's got the green flag in the air, Caleb, but I think we're going to do one more pace lap here. They did extend for one lap, and so no green. Kyle Clinworth has the field under his command. In Area 51, they do allow the pace car to get away so they can have some distance, and it kind of avoids the stack ups on the initial start. While we wait, do want to thank everybody for tuning it in. If you haven't already done it, make sure you hit the like button on the video, ring the bell, subscribe to the channel so that you can get in on all of the iRacing fun. Caleb, we made a big announcement just at the end of the IndyCar Oval Series. The entry blank for the P1 600 is live, and so that's going to be returning on June the 13th, Saturday, 2 p.m., June the 13th. You're going to see many of these same drivers in an all-out knockdown, drag-out 600-kilometer run at the Michigan Speedway for $600 in total prize money, as Kyle Clinworth will come off at turn number 4. He's got Larry Yingling on the outside, Wagner and Stouffer, row 2. Barney's got the green flag in hand, and we are green, Caleb.
Yeah, Kyle Clinworth leads him off into turn 1. Larry Yingling files into second. It's fairly single file, fairly early on in the start of this race. A little bit further back, there is side-by-side action, but so far, and now as Larry Yingling looks to the outside of Kyle Clinworth, now we're starting to see the side-by-side action.
We are. Chris Stouffer jumps up to the outside of Matty Wagner, but the battle is for the lead. Larry Yingling had gone to the top side of Kyle Clinworth. Now he's going to cross him over, go to the bottom. The action already fast and furious here, Caleb.
Yes, he is, but you'll see Kyle try to do the same thing back to him. A little bit further back, that is Chris Stouffer and Matt Wagner going side by side. Almost a 3-wide moment there, but I thought better of it between the cars. And is 2 by 2 by 2 here, Murph.
Yeah, we're looking at the battle between Wagner, Stouffer. You got Richie Hearn, Gary Lovern in the second row there, and they're being trailed by Nicholas Stockner in P7. Larry Yingling has now established himself in the lead. Matty Wagner gets clear in the third. The battle for fourth between Stouffer and Hearn at this point. That is two teammates, and Nicholas Stockner is going to get through. The outside does not seem to be able to build a lot of momentum, Caleb. Chris Stouffer going backwards here.
Yeah, he's going backwards at the moment. And it's just because you are, even in the dirty air, you're able to take the bottom line flat out around here, Dover. But one thing they got to keep considering is that will wear the tires out just a little bit more. Now, this track doesn't kill tires like we said as per se like a Chicagoland or even like some of the air short tracks that we go to. This track is quite tame on the tires, but it still loses pace if you follow a car on the bottom side. 3-wide moment between Gary Lovern and Chris Stouffer. They almost went to the wall coming off turn number 4.
Yeah, Gary Lovern split the 240 race where teammates, he'll move his Votive Racing League machine into the 6th spot, climb to the outside of Nicholas Stockner, and I think he made contact with both Craig Forsyth and Chris Stouffer there. Doesn't seem to slow his roll. He's going to get to the outside of Nicholas Stockner, and meanwhile, Matt Wagner has gone to the inside of Kyle Clinworth for the second spot, and Clindy has now lost a spot to Richie Hearn, and he's under fire from Nicholas Stockner. Clindy went from 2nd to 5th in 2 corners.
Yeah, he's going to go 3 wide with Gary Lovern in the middle. Splits the difference. It seems like Clindy's just stuck on that high side there, and he's just riding that high line and just trying to file into the bottom when he can, and he's still stuck up there, Murph.
I think this is deliberate from Kyle Clinworth. Second in the championship. He knows Ryan Kelly isn't here, and he knows that there is a healthy gap back to third place Larry Yingling in this title fight. Clindy knows he just needs, with 15 cars entered, he just needs to post a good finish. No sense being up there where there's cars bouncing off of one another. He'll fall in line behind Bill Burrell, and Kyle Clinworth has gone to 10th. Meanwhile, Chris Stouffer has gone underneath Nicholas Stockner and moved Stouffer up to 4th behind teammate Richie Hearn, and now Gary Lovern's going to try to go through.
Yeah, Gary. Oh,
whoa, contact! Nicholas Stockner hard in the wall. Nicholas Stockner is coming down off the racing surface, and Stockner will not bring out the caution. I don't think he has crept into the pit lane. He obviously has the meatball, but Stockner will not bring out the caution on that contact with Gary Lovern, and he has actually towed the car now into the pit lane, and so we'll get in the Wayback Machine and see what happened to the 124 of Nicholas Stockner. It was contact with Gary Lovern for sure here, Caleb.
Yeah, it seemed like they made contact quite a few times over the course of the previous, when they initially went side by side, just getting a little bit argy-bargy, and just ultimately Stockner is now he's got a fast repair, but he is going to go multiple laps down because of it.
Yeah, he had to take the tow just to get back to his pit box, and so that takes a couple of minutes at least. And when they're lapping this track at 18,220, which is what Larry Yingling is doing, there's not a lot. You're going to lose a lot of time if you have to take that tow. Stockner waiting patiently for his car to arrive back in his pit box. It'll be a fast stop once he gets there, but he's going to go upwards of 8 or 9 laps down just getting into the box. Do want to thank everybody for joining in here on the P1 Broadcasting Channel. We've got Murph, you've got Caleb Brashear. 165 laps of Area 51 action on tap tonight. We're already 17 deep. Stockner has gotten his car off of the pit lane. I said 8 or 9, Caleb. I overestimated that. He gets out 4 laps in arrears.
Yeah, I think it really helped that he was already on the exit pit lane, so it probably took not as long as, per se, if he was on the back straightaway or even in turn number 2 or even in front of the pit lane in turn number 1. But he is going to go 5 laps down here, and that's going to be really, really difficult to even try to gain that up. He's going to need some caution laps to help him here.
Well, he is, and not only is he going to need caution laps, he's going to need nobody to go laps down in front of him. The good news is that he's kind of out all by his lonesome, Caleb, and so because of that, he's going to be able to run freely, not have to worry about being involved in any other contact. Larry Yingling has established himself in the lead. He's got Matt Wagner second. Wags about 3 or 4 car lengths back, and then Richie Hearn all over the rear of Matt Wagner for the 3rd spot.
Yeah, they're fairly single file at the moment, and I guarantee you we're probably seeing a lot of drivers try to fuel save and stretch these stints as long as they can. We're estimating it is possible to do a 2-stop, but you're going to have to fuel save like no tomorrow. And I guarantee that's probably what the likes of Kyle Clenworth back there. He's just, riding as far back as he can, try to save as much fuel as possible. That way he could go further and further into the stint and try to make the last stint easier to go full push then.
Yeah, we're right on board Richie Hearn, and you can see he's just kind of riding in line behind Matt Wagner in 3rd. Let's go back and see what we can see with Clindy. Here's Clenworth on the bottom, and watch the rev counter on the steering wheel, Caleb. Nowhere near the chip, and he is lifting pretty heavily into the corners. It would not surprise me if Kyle Clenworth was running around here in map 5 just saving fuel. And you can do that at Dover. Unlike the other miles, Milwaukee, New Hampshire, and so on, unlike the other miles, this is very much a drafting track. It's not a slingshot drafting track, but you can lean the car all the way out here and keep up in the draft, Caleb.
Yeah, and that just goes with the banking of the track itself. You look at Milwaukee, that track is virtually just flat, whereas this one is, it has banking almost as steep as tracks like Charlotte and whatnot, and it really just amps up the speed of these things. We're getting over 200 and almost into 210 mile an hour territory in these Dollar IR18 Indy cars. So the track is a lot faster, and it is a drafting track, but that's just because of how the banking is and how banked and arrow this track is.
Yeah, and the other thing, I've heard it described, Caleb, kind of, we kind of described it on the AMA broadcast as like a big Bristol. I think that's very apt in the way that it races. You wouldn't take one of these cars to Bristol. They turn laps there at 7.5 seconds, by the way, but you wouldn't take one of these to Bristol. You can kind of race them here. The thing about Dover, and you saw it with Nicholas Stockner, Joseph Morales has also had contact, and he is already out of the race. But the other thing about Dover, there are no easy hits here. There is no soft contact as you watch Larry Yingling lead Richie Hearn, Chris Stover, Gary Lover around here, Yingling pulling the train. There are no easy hits. If you hit the wall here, you're going to hit it a ton, and you're most likely, after you hit the outside wall, going to hit the inside wall a ton too. It is a very narrow track, and you can see that just looking at it visually. But it's also self-cleaning, and what we mean by that is, Caleb, accidents, they go from the bottom of the speedway, or the top of the speedway, down to the bottom. You see Kyle Clinworth going by Matt Wagner. That's for the 6th spot, so Clindy has started to claw his way back forward. I think Wagner's dropping back to save a bit of gas, and Clindy's going to pull up on the back of Craig Forsyth. This track is also known for netcode issues, especially in this car, which is already known for netcode. But this track's so fast, Caleb, and the inputs are pretty severe, especially coming off the corner, that it's known for some pretty bad netcode too.
Yeah, and that's just due to the nature of how fast we're going and how much in a confined space we are, and that just kind of adds up. You typically see that sometimes in, the really, really fast tracks. The faster the IR-18s go, the more netcode you kind of see here, and the more confined space they have, you kind of see that as well. That's why, Legacy Iowa also had a lot of those problems as well, especially if that track was at night. And you saw a lot of those big netcode contacts at that track due to, how fast it was, how narrow it was. And you're starting to you can see that here at Dover. Virtually every single race, you'll at least see one of those big netcode contacts that put somebody out of the race.
You do, and it's, these guys right now, I think they're playing nice just because they want to. They're playing nice just because I think everybody wants to save as much as humanly possible here. Right now they're content, Caleb, just to let Larry Yingling pull the train and be the leader, knowing that they can save fuel behind him.
Yeah, and that's virtually like what everybody's doing at the moment. That's why you see Richie is just ducking into his draft, kind of lifting and coasting on entry. And he hasn't really been looking for moves at all. And you see him get a little bit high off of turn 4. That's just the nature of the car just bowing out there. He's not trying to make a move there. He's trying to get as much draft as possible to try to save as much fuel as possible. The more draft you have, obviously, you could take your foot off the throttle a little bit more. Therefore, the more gas you save. So these guys are trying to stretch out these fuel stints as long as possible. And the number they need to hit in terms of lap counter to make it on 2 stops is 55 laps per stint at least. So they're still another 15 laps away at least to make it to the end here.
Yeah, and if you wanted to cut that pit stop, you're going to have to make it a little bit further than that. I would think you're going to have to, 55 would do it. You're right. Ball State math. Kyle Clinworth all over the back of Craig Forsyth. Clindy looking at coming forward here, Caleb.
Yeah, he is. He dropped back early in the set, got stuck on the high side, and right now you could just see he's, again, just being patient as well as everybody else. The entire group, you got to consider here, Murph, first through 13th, which is every car in the field, are only 2 seconds apart in time. Like, that's very, very close together. And one thing, these guys all know, one thing goes wrong, that's basically going to be the entire field. We're very lucky that the incident between Stockner and Lover earlier in the race didn't take out more cars with it. So these guys do know one little mistake around a track like this could be the end of the entire field, and they don't want to do that this early on.
Well, what's the rule, Caleb? To finish first, you must first finish, and Clindy being very careful around the outside of Craig Forsyth, and we've already got a stopper. Larry Yingling has pulled his machine onto the pit lane at lap 43, so he's committed to making that extra stop now. He's not going to be able to make it. Everybody else around and out there has been saving fuel, but now the question becomes for Richie Hearn, is he going to be able to make it to that lap 55 number?
Well, no, he's not. He's pitting in this time around, and you see what we talked about earlier. The pit entry in this league, they've all agreed that you have to make the pit entry before the bridge there in terms of your turn-in. So that's what you saw Richie Hearn do there on that pit entry. And I guarantee you, a lot of these guys can only probably go. If we're starting to see cars come in on lap 45, 46, we're starting to see a lot of these other guys probably not even make it to lap 55, and everybody's going to have to be committed to a 3-stop here.
We are. Kyle Clinworth worked to the outside of Craig Forsyth. Couldn't get it done. Christopher is going to peel into the pit lane. That's going to hand the lead to Gary Lovern. Craig Forsyth moves to second. And Kyle Clinworth is now third and still looking to the outside of Forsyth. And that tells me Clindy nowhere near pitting. Craig Forsyth to the outside. Gary Lovern is going to stop. And now Clinworth is racing Forsyth for the lead here.
Yeah, it is maximum attack for Kyle here. He's still ducked in behind Craig, right behind him, and is just still trying to get the draft off, still trying to save as much fuel as possible, make these stints go as long as they can. They both come in.
Oh, here we go.
Lap 49.
Clindy slid off the apron and back onto the track. Momentarily, he came back down, and there you see kind of how the racetrack is elevated above the pit lane. Everybody now coming down the pit lane. Critically, meatballs for Frank Irwin Jr. and Shane Coker. And you see the nose ripped off of the number 44 machine for Frank Irwin Jr. And there had to have been contact on pit entry.
There was, Murph.
Here we go. We need a little bit better angle on it. Let's see if we can't get that from the P1 airship. Here we go. Here's Frank Irwin Jr. He does the same thing Clinworth did. He kind of played a little bit of carom pool with the banking. He's got Coker right behind him. And Irwin just locks the fronts and slides, and Coker gets right on into him. The good news for those drivers is they're already on pit lane, and then poor Kurt Rose plows into them as they were stopped. He just had nowhere to go, and here's what Kurt Rose saw. Just nowhere to go, and Coker bounces back up. Rose locks it down and gets into the right front of Coker, and they stop and get locked together, and Shane's able to pull away, but my goodness. Kurt Rose back in. He did not critically take his fast repair, just a new nose cone on that machine. Frank Irwin Jr. has retired his car. Shane Coker is back out. He did not lose a lap on that, Caleb, but he is some 8 seconds behind the lead, and he did take his fast repair. Kyle Clinworth is now your leader from Craig Forsyth. Larry Yingling came out on that cycle in third, Caleb.
Yeah, they seem to be lost a little bit of time under that pit cycle there. Could have just been the nature of clean air running, but him and Richie Hearn both losing spots to Craig Forsyth and Kyle Clinworth there. Richie Hearn looking up the inside of Larry Yingling and gets up, slots himself up into third place. Larry right behind him, Larry and Chris Stouffer are going to go side by side, and Stouffer is able to get its place going into turn number 1.
I think Larry Yingling learned his lesson. He's going to slot back in the pack, try to save some fuel on this stint so that he can get a little bit more of an overcut the next time. Meanwhile, Kurt Rose, he's sliding to the back of this pack, and we've still got 8 cars in this league group. It's about 3 seconds from Wayne Campbell in 8th back to Jeff Heisong in 9th. He's got Bill Burrell with him in 10th. 8 seconds further back to Shane Coker. Kurt Rose a lap down. Nicholas Stockner 2 down. Frank Irwin Jr. and Joseph Morales have retired from the event. For Stockner, the best thing that happened to Kurt Rose or Nicholas Stockner right now is a yellow. For Stockner, that would bail him out. He's been out 43 laps, and he would desperately love a caution so he doesn't lose any more time, Caleb.
Yeah, right as we say that, Stockner's actually coming down pit lane, so Stockner's making, guessing a scheduled pit stop for him, so he's going to go probably back to being 5 laps down at the moment. But at the front of this thing, Richie Hearn has taken over the lead from Kyle Clinworth and Craig Forsyth.
They're gonna have Richie Hearn lead the train. Stouffer second. Clindy goes back to third. Forsyth fourth. Early leader Larry Yingling in fifth. I need to learn to say that better, Caleb. You're partial to the Yingling, and I can't even say the man's name.
I do love me some Yingling Flight beer there, Murph. It is one of my more favorite adult beverages. But yeah, he's Larry Yingling is currently slotted in fifth. He basically led the entirety of the first stint here, and that was just purely because he wanted to get the clean air and just run as fast as he can and not have to worry about. He knew he was going to burn fuel faster than everybody else, so he did pit before everybody else came in, and now he's kind of slot himself back into fifth and is going to try to do the inverse of what he did in the first and try to save as much fuel as possible, try to make that 50-lap mark that the likes of Clendy and Craig Forsyth did.
Yeah, and for Larry Yingling, I mean, he came in 20 laps earlier. He came in, 7 laps earlier than Clinworth and Forsyth. Stouffer's been out 15, Hearn's 17, now 18. There's 2 laps difference for Stauffer and Hearn, and they've been out 2 and 4 laps longer than Forsyth, Clinworth, and Wagner here. The remainder of the field, Lovern, Campbell, Hysong, they all stopped 1 lap sooner than Clinworth and Forsyth, so they're kind of the meat in that sandwich. We do thank everybody for joining in. If you haven't already done it, make sure you hit the like button on the video, ring the bell, subscribe to the channel. If you've got ideas about the action you see on the track, by all means, put them in the chat. We'd be more than happy to discuss with you live on the air. It's Murph and it's Caleb Brashear, the Bash Brothers. We're geared up to get ready to go to Indianapolis, Caleb. 4 days, 14 minutes, 4 days, 14 hours, 57 minutes before they drop the green flag, but who's counting?
I think you are, Murphy. I think technically that clock you got that gave you that number is the one that's counting the days, the numbers down, the seconds down to the greatest spectacle on earth.
Yes, it is. Got to thank my good friend Kyle. He married one of my best friends in college. And one of his profession is he designs those LED signs and stuff. And it's actually a prototype for a Miller billboard that you might see in some of the more finer establishments around Indiana. And he very graciously gave me the prototype. And so I've had that now it is 10 years old. The logo is the 100th running. And it's kind of a cool deal. It sets itself. You can hook it up to your laptop. There's an app that goes with it, and you tell it what day the race is next year, and it sets itself. It's really a cool thing. But yeah, 4 days, 14 hours, and 56 minutes now, Caleb. But again, who's counting? Richie Hearn leading the train. Christopher second. Clendy third. Forsyth fourth. Larry Yingling is fifth. Here for Area 51 After Dark at Dover. We've trimmed the lead pack down to 8 cars now, Caleb.
Yeah, that just goes to show, how much attrition this race has. We do only have about 4 retirements, but we've had multiple incidents. A couple drivers that are still out there got caught up in pit lane. Some of them have used their fast repair. So we really only have 2 retirements total between Frank Irwin Jr. and Joseph Morales, but we still had a lot of incidents. Only about half the pack is still together. And, of course, the pit cycle possibly separated the likes of Jeff Hysong and Bill Burrell and Shane Coker, as a matter of fact, to just drop back and just try to gain as much time as they can back on the lead group. They are gaining here. It was 4 seconds to the leader just a couple laps ago, and they're still gaining at the moment. They are now, I believe, on the back of Wayne Campbell, just on the edge of his draft range. So they should, the likes of Jeff Hysong, Bill Burrell, and Nicholas Stockner, able to catch this lead group in just a few laps' time.
Yeah, they've got Stockner pulling that train. He's in front. There's Hysong and Bill Burrell, and they are now to the back of Kurt Rose. So The 8-car pack has become 10. Interestingly enough, Shane Coker's out there by himself, and there's Coker. He's 12 seconds off the lead, so he's about 2/3 of a lap down. But he is the fastest car on the track, Caleb. He's got that baby turned all the way up. He knows he's at a deficit. He's 10 seconds behind the pack, so more or less half a lap, a little bit more than half a lap. But Coker, he's got that VRL machine turned all the way up, and he is not... he knows he's got to run flat out, but he might be in a pretty safe spot because if something happens in that pack, Coker's not going to be involved. And so keep that in mind as we head back to the front. It's Hearn, Stouffer, Clintworth, Forsyth, and Yingling, then Wagner, Lovern, Campbell, Heisong, and Burrell, your top 10. The lap cars of Kurt Rose and Nicholas Stogner are in that pack. The only car circulating by itself is the aforementioned Shane Coker.
Yeah, we have the entire group back together of the cars besides Shane Coker back in the lead group, but it's still fairly what we've seen in the first stint. A lot of single file action, a lot of guys still playing it safe. We are around just before the halfway point here, so these guys still got to make a couple more stops before the end of the race. They know this, and they're probably not going to be full tilt, full push until probably about lap 100, and then you'll start seeing, these guys start passing. But right now, everybody's still single file, still trying to save their stuff as much as they can before it is go time.
I just hit the refresh button on the P1600 entry list. 13 drivers now have filed entries, and I put that live about an hour ago. 13 entries, 7 different teams. The Hyperstar, Brendan Lichtenberg, has already filed his entry. The old narc brain, Logan Edwards, former Indy Open champion, Anna Klimek, the boss, Antonio Estrada, defending pole sitter, Matt Hollybach, Craig Forsyth, Shane Coker. That's already shaping up to be a pretty doggone stout field, and it's the entry list has been open for an hour, Caleb. They all seem to want to win my money as we get to halfway here in Area 51 at Dover. Richie Hearn leads it from Stouffer and Clintworth. Go ahead.
Well, everybody likes to have your stuff, Murph.
I know, right?
You give away a lot of stuff. I can confirm this from Chicago last year.
Bar bills, restaurant bills, hotel rooms, you name it. Dining room tables, couches, refreshments, you name it. I've probably given it away. We've got to thank our friends at the Internet Sim Racing Association, Mike Rigney, P1 Broadcasting, of course, 40 Racewear. There's a championship ring that's going to be made for that race. It's a big deal, Caleb, and so we're excited about that. I'm really more so excited about the P1 prize challenge, which somebody can win the 600 and the Hoosier 500. There's a nice bonus for that too. Jacob Oster came very close to that last year, and now that he's part of that Great Wall of Power slide, it'd be interesting to see what happens in the Hoosier 500 as well. But I can't wait for the 600. That race was so good last year, so much fun. And the best part of it is I don't have to race in it. I can sit in the booth and watch.
I guess that's one advantage of watching races. You don't have to worry about, you don't have to worry about any championships. You can just, watch the races, commentate, sit back and relax. That's the reason we do this, Murph, right?
It is. Richie Hearn has pulled his car down for his second of 3 stops, and so Hearn, the first one to blink in this second stint. That'll elevate Clintworth to the lead. Stouffer second. Forsyth now third. There has been really no passing in this pack. The car that you see on the outside is Nicholas Stockner, and he's trying to come back toward the front of this field to get one of his 5 laps back. And the rest of the field isn't really going to fight that too much, Caleb. They don't really care if he gets 1 lap back. As a matter of fact, the cars at the front probably wouldn't care as you see Larry Yingling peel off. They probably wouldn't care as much if he gets out there and pulls them around, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's just one event. If he gets out in front, well, that's just free, free fuel saving right there. But currently, Kyle Glenworth leading the field away. He was getting a little bit racy, I noticed, with Richie Hearn right around when Richie came into pit, and he wanted to get around the outside of him, and he tried and didn't get the position until Richie finally committed to pit lane. So we are starting to see it get a little bit racy here, Murph.
We are. Shane Coker's pulled into pit lane, so too Bill Burrell. Jeff Heisong now hits the pit road. We're watching the leaders, Clinworth, Stouffer, Forsythe, and now Wagner, as they continue to cycle around. 94 of 165 complete about Dover. And I'll say this, Caleb, this is a track, if you get green flag running, it goes by quick. This race is basically an hour old at this point, and we are nearing the 100 lap mark as Stouffer pulls his car onto the pit lane.
Yeah, this race goes by very, very quickly. The laps here are less than 20 seconds a lap, and that goes by very, very quickly. We've probably been out on track not even an hour at this point. Kyle Glenworth on his pit entry almost came back up the track, and he spins in pit lane.
Yeah, we're going to go back and watch that whole sequence. Here's Kyle Glenworth. You see the Rogue Racing, the Satellite Rogue Alliance car. He does the same thing. He plays a bit of carrom pool with the banking. He gets it down on a pit lane, and then it's the same kind of thing. You see the rears lock up from the hybrid being charged, and around that 37 machine goes, and Glenworth has still not made his pit box. He's creeping down pit lane, and this is going to cost him at least a lap, Caleb.
Yeah, that spin easily costed him probably about 8 or 9 seconds worth of time. He did get it looped back around fairly quickly, so he probably didn't lose a lap there.
Forsythe just about spun his car out too. Craig's going to come around that Goodyear building. He did not, but he had that car locked down. The time difference for Glenworth, about 7 seconds, is what he's going to lose out of that racket. I don't know if he's going to go a lap down, but he's certainly going to lose a ton of track position and the draft as Matt Wagner now in the pit lane. That's going to hand the lead to this man, Kurt Rose, but he's been out 50 laps. Rose was also a lap down, and here he comes to the attention of pit road, and that will complete the second cycle. And there's Craig Forsythe leaving his box. Where is everything going to cycle through? Forsythe is out. Hearn is already on the track. There goes Shane Coker. Where is Craig Forsythe going to cycle out here, Caleb?
He's going to emerge right in front of our leaders, but you see how much of a head of steam the two cars behind him, Richie Hearn and Larry Yingling, come on. Does Richie Hearn look to the outside? He looks around the outside turn of the front straightaway. Does he get him in turn number 1? Craig Forsythe up to speed, though, is able to keep that position.
That opens the door for Larry Yingling, and now they've got Matt Wagner up here, and Wagner is the same kind of sitting duck that Craig Forsythe was. It takes about a lap to get these cars up to full speed. Here comes Forsythe to the high side of Wagner, but he's not quite able to get that move done. Larry Yingling gets through Richie Hearn, so move Yingling to third, Hearn to fourth. That is the lapped car of Nicholas Stockner behind them, as Forsythe will go to the outside, do battle for the lead with Wagner.
Matt Wagner to the lead of this race. He was the one that stayed out the longest on pit road, so that's going to help him in the long run, taking a short fuel stop at the end there as he nearly hits the car that came out pit lane. That was Nicholas Stockner that came down, almost hit the back of him. Just naturally running that inside line. As you see, as we get a little bit jostling between Richie Hearn and Larry Yingling.
We do, and look who snuck into the back of this fight. That's Wayne Campbell in fifth. Give a call down to Wayne. There he is. He started this race in 11th. He's up to fifth. He's passed almost a third of the field, and for Wayne Campbell, for a track that is pretty difficult to pass on, Dover is not the easiest place to make a move. That 42 has been on the move, so shout out to Wayne Campbell, up 6 spots in a 15-car field. That's a pretty good day at the office. He's got about a third of the race yet to go. Do thank everybody for joining in. If you haven't done it, make sure you hit the like button on the video, ring the bell, subscribe to the channel for all of the iRacing fun. We've got dueling streams tonight. The Indy Next Series is on the other channel. Jacob Collins, Sophia Connell on that one. Tomorrow night, we're going to have the Horizon IndyCar Series from Indianapolis and what would be their season finale. That's at 8 o'clock. Thursday and Friday, Caleb and I will join you for the AMA Grand National Series and the AMA Archway Industrial Coatings Truck Series. 8:20 pre-race, 8:35 start. Saturday, 2 o'clock, it's the iRacing IndyCar Series. And then, Caleb, I would venture a guess that probably 80% of the P1 team is going to be in Speedway, Indiana on Sunday for the greatest spectacle in racing, the Indianapolis 500. I can't wait for it. Where are you seated for that grand event? Where do you sit?
I will be the very top of the turn 3 and 4 short chute, kind of closer to turn 4 side. That's where I'm going to be located.
Very good. That is a wonderful place to watch the race. I will be in an grandstand A box, just about across from pit stall number 2. About 2/3 of the way up. I like my seat, Caleb. It took me a long time to get there, but it's under the cover. I don't get wet when it rains. I don't get sunburned when it rains. Got a great view where they set the stage up for Jim Cornelison to sing at the head of the grid. That's directly perpendicular to where I sit. They get a nice view of his face and the Purdue All-American band there.
It is indeed. Matt Wagner still leads the field away. Craig Forsyth in second, and Larry Yingling in third. And again, we're still seeing that single file action, but more importantly, we are starting to see the likes of Kyle Clenworth and Bill Burrell. They have closed about a second and a half to the rear of the lead pack here, to Jeff Highsong, and they have closed it. They're closing at about a tenth or 2/10 every single lap.
Well,
and
Clindy's got some help. If you look out the front of Clenworth's car, you see Kurt Rose. Now, Kurt Rose is not in contention here. He's a lap down, but Clenworth is within draft range of Rose, and that's just going to pull him along. Clindy not saving fuel anymore, flat out floorboarded. I want you to listen, though, to Clenworth's car as he navigates just for a lap, Caleb, because you can audibly hear how rough this track is. I'll be quiet for a lap and let the folks at home listen. You hear that creaking, scraping noise? That's the floor hitting the concrete. And that does two things, Caleb, as you know. The first is that it makes the car extremely tight. Imagine extremely understeery. Imagine a skateboard with no wheels. Suddenly, it just wants to go straight, and so you're fighting that the entire time through these corners because the car is essentially striking the pavement. The other thing that it does is that it takes away a lot of the downforce at the rear. So you suddenly get the feeling that you're going head on because you lose all the downforce, and then it suddenly comes back and it makes the car want to hook up and go the direction where the wheel is pointed, and that's not a comfortable feeling either. I do want to point out that Clindy gained a second on that catch and pass of Kurt Rose, and so he's back to 2.4 seconds behind Jeff Highsong, and the lead group is all together. The battle is up front. Matt Wagner has the lead. Caleb Forsyth second. Richie Hearn and Chris Stouffer are doing battle for third. That's Hearn up top, Stouffer in second, and Richie Hearn looking for the podium here, Caleb.
Yes, he is. He's looking around the outside. He's trying to make that outside lane work. It really hasn't worked all night here, but he's trying to make it work. He's kind of this is kind of the first time we've seen him on the outside here. You see a lot of the cars duck down towards the bottom, but one thing that's important that Richie Hearn has the high side advantage is that he's able to take as much track as he wants, whereas everybody else, they want to defend the inside. You see how Matt Wagner is swerving down to the bottom on these straightaways to block anybody trying to go up the inside of him. But meanwhile, Richie could just try to carry as much speed as possible and stick on the outside, and that's what you see him do right there. Just about clears Chris Stouffer going into turn number 1.
He does clear Stouffer. Now he'll go to work on the back of Craig Forsyth. And for me, Caleb, the other thing that is noticeable about that, he's able to get a big draft going the straightaways. He's up there in clean air. There's nobody in front of him, and so whatever tire wear they're experiencing, Richie Hearn is not, because he's up on the high side of the racetrack. He'll get to the outside. He'll get left front to right rear of Craig Forsyth off of turn number 2. Richie Hearn going for second here at Dover, Caleb.
Yeah, he's trying to make that outside work again. Seems like the outside for the first time the entire race has the momentum, and he's able to get that second spot going into turn 1 again. He tries to undercut on Matt Wagner. He gets a run on his outside going down the back stretch.
Richie Hearn is going to go from 4th and maybe the lead in the span of about 6 laps. Hearn to the outside, Wagner to the inside. The inside has been dominant the entire race. Richie Hearn, the first one to go up top, not quite able to pull off the move for the lead, and now Forsyth sneaks back underneath. Forsyth's going to take second. Now Forsyth going to pit lane.
Forsyth coming down pit lane. Now what's important is that he actually didn't go that far on fuel. He might be pitting strategically just a little bit early to just try to get some fresh tires and some clean air running. We do think that a clean car with no draft or not in the pack actually runs faster alone than it does in the pack. So that's what he could be doing. Matt Wagner comes down to pit lane. That gives the lead over to Chris Stouffer.
Yeah, and here's the other part of that. Stouffer, Hearn teammates, 40 Racewear, R12. Do want to thank Jim Herrick over at 40racewear.com for his support of not only the Area 51 series, but also many other series. Sim racing hats, gloves, shoes, apparel, championship rings. 40racewear.com. His 2 cars leading the race. His 3rd car here, Craig Forsyth on the alternate strategy. He's going to short pit him. But you're right. We've seen Kyle Clinworth basically run down this pack. Clindy now 1.9 seconds behind Jeff Heisong for that 6th spot. He has been coming for this entire time, and he's had some help from some lap cars that have been out there and been able to get the draft and pull himself ever so closer.
Matt Wagner's out. Matt Wagner has hit the wall.
Matt Wagner meatball, and there you see it, left front damage. Wagner will pull his machine down the pit lane, and that is big news. Matt Wagner had been the leader at one point in this race, and here it is. He's coming to pit lane. Kind of hard. It's a bad angle there with the way that pit lane is down. He actually may have, Caleb, I think he lost it on pit entry and smacked the inside wall there. Or pit exit, excuse me, smacked the inside wall.
I mentioned it earlier that this pit exit is very, very tough. It's not really built for these Indy cars. It's very, very bumpy. It's very, very slick. It is very easy to lose the rear end around on pit entry and pit exit, as a matter of fact. And it has claimed Matt Wagner possibility. I believe he's already used one of his fast repair, or his only fast repair, if I'm not mistaken here, Murph. So that could be night done for him.
He is not, but he has towed, and now he's ejected from the ejected from the server, and so Wags has retired his machine. Do want to welcome in Paula Scory. Clindy's mom has joined us. He's got his work cut out for him, Paula. He spun it getting on the pit lane in the last pit cycle. He just about smacked the wall, making the pass on Jeff Heisong for 5th. He has caught the lead group. He ran them down from about 6 seconds behind. So he's back in the fight, but he has lost some track position here. Pit lane has been Pit lane has been treacherous, to say the least, Caleb. It's caught out, and Richie Hearn has a broken nose, Caleb. My, what's happened to Richie Hearn? He was looking good for a podium finish, and he's going to spin it coming off of pit lane too, Caleb.
Almost the exact same way as Matt Wagner, except for he was able to keep it sliding just a little bit further, but Richie Hearn,
and
another driver claimed by the pit exit.
We've got more news. Too fast entering pit lane, Kyle Clinworth and Larry Yingling, both too hot getting on the pit lane. That's going to turn the lead over to Wayne Campbell and Gary Lovern. They have not pitted. Chris Stouffer is third on the racetrack. He is on pit lane.
Whoa. I'm rewatching the incident on pit entry. Kyle actually slammed into the side of Larry Yingling on pit entry here. And it sped both of them up.
Yeah, so let's get back here. Into the blimp we go. Just the angles here. Clinworth surges forward, braking, and there's contact, and that's what caused the speeding penalty. Oh.
Chaos, Murph. Chaos has unfolded on this last pit cycle.
It has, Caleb. Wayne Campbell is now your leader. He is coming down the pit lane. That will actually turn the lead over to Kurt Rose, who is on a slightly different strategy because he was involved in an incident earlier. So he's got anywhere between 3 and 7 laps additional that he can run. He is begging for the yellow light because that would elevate him back to the lead lap. And a matter of fact, if the yellow came out now, he would be able to get a free pit stop and be the leader with Kurt Rose. And so we're awaiting his stop. Forsyth has made it by Campbell now. So Forsyth second, Campbell third, Lovern fourth, Stouffer fifth, then Hysong and Bill Burrell. Shane Coker is a pair of laps down. Clindy has gone 3 laps down, so to Larry Yingling and Nicholas Stockner. Stockner is going to have to make another stop. Richie Hearn 4 laps down after the spin, but we're just awaiting the pit stop from Kurt Rose, and he's going to run that baby until it's absolutely dry, Caleb.
Yeah, he's getting very, very deep into his fuel set. And a part of me wonders, if you're Kurt Rose or if you're anybody else, do you actually take – I wasn't paying attention. Do you actually take tires? Because of the reduced fuel cell that we run here in the Area 51 series, and when they made their stop prior to this, they were coming out to what is typically a normal stint length of what an IndyCar can do, and typically what you see in like a fixed race or maybe another league that runs a full fuel cell. Did any of these guys not take tires on that last pit stop to try to gain a few seconds over the rest of the field?
You know, I looked at that. Everybody appears to have taken tires based on the length of the stop. Kurt Rose is on pit lane now, and he's also taking tires. He's just went over 7 seconds in his box, 8.2. So that indicates to me that everybody took tires. But you're right. If I was Kurt Rose, 17 laps would be about 6 gallons. You should be in and out in 4 seconds. I would have taken that because it might have kept him. Wouldn't have kept him on the lead lap, I don't guess. But if you were Forsyth, I can't believe somebody didn't try it at least. Given the significant time savings that may have been on offer, you might have been able to escape the pack. But maybe the tire wear won't allow it. And either way, we've got a 4-way scrap for the lead. Richie Hearn, the 5th car in line, is not a part of this. It's Craig Forsyth, Chris Stouffer, your 2 leaders. Then Wayne Campbell to the outside of Stouffer. He's making a bid for that 2nd spot. Gary Lovern, a fine run into 4th, and he's got a shot at a podium here, Caleb, as we wind down to the last 15 laps.
Yeah, it's getting very, very dicey as we see Stockner coming out pit lane right in front of our leaders, and that's just the merge line. But you see how Craig holding that inside line as tight as he can. Chris is trying to look up the inside, going down each straigaway, just trying to get that gap. If it if it's open, you'll definitely see Stouffer try to look up the inside of Craig Forsyth if he leaves it open. But this is going to be interesting because they're all losing time to Jeff Highsong behind, and Bill Burrell and Shane Coker, who are still in the lead lap. Just because of the line they're running an entire line, so the car's just naturally going to go slower for how much you scrub here. But Chris Stouffer, he's trying to look up the inside. Craig is defending it. He's going to, if he wants to make a pass, he's going to have to try to somehow make that high side work and possibly get him at the start-finish line on the last lap.
He is indeed. And look, Chris Stouffer, Craig Forsyth, two of the most experienced drivers that you will find in this car. They have been around the block more than thrice, Caleb. They know exactly what each other needs to do, and they probably know how each other is going to do it. And on top of that, they're teammates, so they're in Discord together. They're probably telling each other what they're going to do. They would love to preserve here that finish. And hey, you look at the point standings, that's all going to get jumbled up. Ryan Kelly obviously going to take a drop week. Clindy is going to finish no better than 9th here unless something pretty wild happens inside the last 10 laps. Larry Yingling also has trouble. Chris Stouffer is 4th, and he has 80 points out of the championship. He would love a win or a second because that would elevate him pretty close. That would elevate him to pretty close into the final round at Gateway. It would at least give him a chip and a chair, Caleb.
Yes, it would indeed. It hasn't really gone in the way of our championship leaders, at least in terms with Kyle and Kyle finishing down out just inside the top 10. But it's not. It could have been a lot more separated after this race based on the early running. Kyle qualified on the pole position. He finds himself at 10th. The points gap could be a lot larger based on what we saw early on in the race here.
Well, and that's kind of the advantage of one of these races, short track, smaller field. Even if you do have a bad day, the damage is kind of minimized as opposed to, you finish, you have that incident or that kind of luck at Indianapolis where there's 30 cars, you're going to score minimum points. At least here, the damage isn't as bad as it could have been for Kyle Clinworth. And so, or Larry Yingling for that matter. Yingling right now and Clindy, they're running nose to tail. I don't want to break away from this because we've got 5 laps to go and a shootout for the lead between two of the best in the business. 4 to go now between Stouffer and Forsyth. Forsyth has the lead. Chris Stouffer, he is trying to figure out exactly how to make his way around. Craig Forsyth will hop on board. 3 to go, Caleb.
Yeah, Craig Forsyth still in the lead, still holding as close to the bottom as he can, swerving down the front straight or the straightaways here. Stouffer's still playing patient. I guarantee you he's going to try to duck out probably on the last lap here and get alongside coming off turn number 4. That's probably when he's going to make his move to try to get around or try to just get past Craig Forsyth at the line.
Yeah, you see Stouffer swinging high right there. He's trying to pull out of the draft, build the run down the hill, and he's going to have to make the move to the outside. Craig Forsyth not going to give up the bottom. White flag in the air. 1 lap to go. Forsyth, your leader. Stouffer second. Is he going to make a bid for the lead, Caleb? They're off at 2.
Craig holding at the moment. Stouffer, he looks to the high side. He's going to try to make the high side work. Cuts it down low. Gets a run onto the front straightaway. It's not going to be enough. Craig Forsyth edges out Chris Stouffer by 41 thousandths of a second.
Wayne Campbell a distant third, 99 thousandths of a second. Gary Lovern, Jeff Highsong going to round out your top 5. That was about as good as you can get from Dover, Delaware. Craig Forsyth is your winner. And so, Area 51 after dark. At Dover, it ends with Craig Forsyth in victory lane. Chris Stouffer second, a clean sweep of the top 2 steps of the podium for the 40 Racewear team. Wayne Campbell brings it home in third. Gary Lovern, a fine run to 4th, and Jeff Highsong We normally see him in a DW12. He's going to be credited with 5th. A fantastic run for him. And how about Shane Coker? He recovers from that early contact on pit lane. He stayed on the lead lap. He made up by my count 5 seconds. He'll be credited with 6th. And how about Bill Burrell too? Bill Burrell finished on the lead lap in the 7th spot. Kurt Rose 1 lap down 8th. Larry Yingling 9th. Kyle Clinworth credited with 10th after multiple incidents on pit road. In 11th, Richie Hearn, he spun off coming off pit lane. Nicholas Stockner was the first incident of the day. He's credited with 12th. Matt Wagner 13th. He spun coming off of pit lane. Frank Irwin Jr. had trouble getting into it. And Joseph Morales, your first retiree, he is 15th, and that is the final field from Dover. Get the replays queued up here. We do want to welcome in everybody who's joining us from the conclusion of the Indy Next race. This one, a barn burner in terms of time, Caleb. I don't know what the official race time is, but it couldn't have been anything over 85 minutes, I wouldn't think.
Wait, well, I believe probably not even that long, Murph.
Yeah, maybe not. Let's see if we can find Wayne Campbell. We'll get him in the preparation room. And there he is. Wayne, you've got Murph, you've got Caleb Brashear in the P1 broadcasting booth. You hear us?
Hey, yep, copy.
So you are the big gainer. You start 11th. You finish 3rd. Did you have anything for Stover and Forsyth at the front, or were you content to kind of run where you were and defend from Gary Lovern in 4th?
I think I was pretty content. Craig has some old tires, but man, you can just ride the bottom, and it's really hard to pass.
Indeed it is. You've got Caleb Brashear with us too. Caleb, how about it?
Well, it certainly was a Dover race, but it's I was expecting this to go. I was expecting at least a little bit of caution here, but we saw a bit of carnage with the pit exit here that I'm very surprised didn't bring out a caution. I guess, how do you take, you obviously were able to gain a lot of positions going 11th to 3rd, and a lot of drivers were not able to get pit X or right, and you got some positions out of that. Just talk to us like how tricky, not only pit exit was, but pit entry was, pitting underneath the bridge and just getting that thing slowed down and sped back up in and out of pit lane.
Yeah, so like in a practice session before this race, I was I was spinning out like every exit. So I was like, man, I really need to practice that. So that's like all I practiced was like, I need to get good exits because there's no way I'm going to pass on track. Yeah, so I stuck it kind of all the way on the outside and kind of, I was like on 50% throttle, which kind of caught me off guard. The first pit stop, I came out and someone was ahead of me and I almost ran into them. I went into the track and almost caused a caution there. So it was kind of surprising how much quicker I was on pit exit. So as long as the race stayed green, I knew I would probably get a good last pit, and that's kind of what happened. So kind of lucky on that end. Pit entry was sketch every time. I think every time I actually hit the pit entrance, I was like, oh my gosh, calm down, get the heart settled a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you what, anytime you pass 8 cars in a 165 lapper at Dover, you've done a day's work, Wayne, and you've done a heck of a job. Thank you so much for dropping in, stopping by. Thank you so much for being a part of the series. As always, you get on the podium, you get the mic. Friends, family, sponsors, shout them out.
Well, I don't have a sponsor. Anyone can, you could sign up next time. But no, just thank my wife and cats as always.
Very good. That's the important part. Thank the wife, right? So thank you so much for dropping in and stopping by. Keep going fast and having fun, buddy. We'll see you at the next one.
Yep. See you guys.
Absolutely. That is Wayne Campbell. He is your 3rd place driver today. For 2nd, we'll bring in one of we'll bring in one of my 346 favorite people, Chris Stouffer. Stouffer, you've got Murph, you've got Caleb Rashear in the P1 broadcasting booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
You got us. And so thank you so much, first of all, for joining in. Did you have anything for Craig there at the end, or was it a matter of follow your teammate home? Tell us kind of what you were thinking there as it came time to talk turkey.
Well, I mean, you know me. Um, I was
I do
thinking
know
about
you.
how it's true. I was thinking about how to get a run, and I tried to back up a little bit. And I tried it a few times before we got to that final lap there, just to see what kind of run I could get. And I noticed that the draft just didn't pull you up, suck you up to the car in front that much. So the only thing you could really do is, lay back just a tad, maybe like a 0.2 of a second at the most, and then hit the hybrid button and try to get beside him. And but once you did that, you're out of the hybrid boost, and you didn't have anything for him. You're just a sitting duck on the outside. So I tried to time it going into four, and I got beside him coming out of the turn, but I didn't have enough track to even make anything happen. And like I said, used up all the hybrid before I even got there. So I don't think there was any pass in the leader on the high side tonight.
Caleb, how about it?
Well, you're got a good little streak. They say two's a streak of you won last race at Indianapolis. You get second here. Came very close to victory. Last race of the season here at next week at Gateway. Just what are you looking? What are you looking forward to Gateway to finishing off the season and try to get 3 podiums in a row?
Well, Gateway is one of my favorite tracks. I like the unique tracks that are a little bit different. Gateway being one of those, it's way up there. Um, and so, you know, like any race, I usually qualify pretty well at Gateway. Track agrees with me, so hopefully I can qualify up front. I know I'm probably not in contention for the championship, but I'll still try to maximize the points however I can, and play spoiler, get a win, do whatever. Just go out there and have fun, just like we did tonight. It's funny because the pressure's off, and I tend to be running a little bit better once the pressure's off. But um, I guess that's just the way it goes.
Finales at Gateway. I know you're tough at Gateway. We've raced there in the past, so you've got a chance. I think you're going to go to Gateway with a chip and a chair. You're going to mathematically be eligible, I believe, and so there's always a chance, right? Some things are going to need to happen, but you're going to be in the discussion, Chris. You're also part of the welcoming committee to welcome my normal broadcast partner, Andrew Wood, to the great state of Indiana. And so I look forward to seeing both of you on Sunday morning. Two gentlemen that I enjoy being around very much and have enormous respect for. With that said, Chris, shout them out. Friends, family, sponsors. You got the mic.
Well, as always, shout out to 4draceware.com for sponsorship and for sponsoring the league, all that they do, boots, gloves, check them out. Shout out to the family for kids allowing me to race and doing what they need to do when dad's on the old sim. And then shout out to you guys in the booth. Thanks for broadcasting. Mark, I will see you Sunday morning behind the pagoda, usual spot. And shout out to Craig, good race, good win. Everybody else that was in the race, we went caution free. I did not think that was going to happen. I would not have put my money on that at the beginning of the race, but it happened, and it was fun.
100%. Well, I thank you so much for your time. We will see you Sunday. Make sure Wood's standing straight this time when I see him, and keep going fast, having fun, buddy.
All right, we'll see you then. Have a good one.
Absolutely. That is Chris Stouffer. He is your second place finisher, and for the winner, we've got Craig Forsyth. Craig, you've got Murph. You've got Caleb Brashear in the P1 broadcasting booth. Not much to say, really. War of attrition. All the contenders around you fell out, and by Jove, there's Craig Forsyth standing tall with the lead. Old Stouffer wore you out, but he wasn't able to get around.
No, I mean, I knew I was going to make the call to pit as soon as the window opened. I didn't know that I was going to get such a clean track in front of me, which just let me just put fast lap after fast lap down. And then I don't know how I didn't see Matt lose it on pit exit, but I sure saw him coming back up on the track after losing it on pit exit. I don't know how that didn't bring out a caution, because I thought I was close enough to him that it was going to trigger a caution, but it didn't, and that would have really screwed me, because I would have been trapped 2 laps down at that point, I assume. And then the same with Richie, which was unfortunate. Hit the same bump, it sounds like, and did the same thing, hit the inside wall. So yeah, it was just a matter of, at that point, we were the lucky one that pitted first, had the clean track to put down fast laps, and then by the time the cycle completed, put us in the lead. And at that point, it's so hard to pass at this track. So unless you're dialing down the fuel and basically encouraging someone to pass you on the outside, there's really no way for someone to pass you on the outside if you don't want them to here.
I'm going to ask one more question, because I know Caleb Brashear has hard-hitting and insightful questions to ask you. Was there any thoughts?
Only the most important, Murph. Only the most important.
Only the most important. So, was there any thought given to taking fuel only on that last stop?
I had initially planned on doing fuel only, but that was after the first stop, when I'd run 49 laps on the first stop. And I was doing the calculations, like, well, if I run 49 every time, I'm only going to have to do 17 laps at the end. And I was like, well, that would save me 2 seconds. But then as the cycle, I think the second cycle happened, it was just, there was more being up front, more running faster. And I was like, well, no, there's no point. I may as well just commit to it. At that point, I would have had to sit back behind those guys to do the extra laps. And I thought there was more opportunity to get it going faster. So at that point, I mean, even though I only took, technically I probably could have saved 1 second by not taking tires, but it wasn't enough. On the initial fuel save plan, I would have saved just over 2 seconds. That might have been enough. I don't know, but it didn't work out that way. So I ended up going with tires.
I will now turn you over to my esteemed colleague, Caleb Brashear. Take it away.
All right, so only the most important and most serious of questions that you get from me whenever we get at least a first-time winner for me, whenever I broadcast with Murph. What's your favorite chicken wing flavor?
I like anything with chipotle on it, and I prefer it saucy. So I do like the spice. I like to remember that I had hot wings the next day. So a good chipotle burn, preferably saucy. If they do a dry chipotle rub, that's fine. But I prefer licking the sauce and feeling the burn afterwards.
Remind me, if I ever go eating hot wings with Craig Forsyth, to take 3 Nexiums and a bottle of Pepto-Bismol along. That would have me screaming. So either way, good to see you. Good to hear from you, Craig. As always, friends, family, sponsors, shout outs. You got the floor.
First, I've got for those that follow the league, we lost one of our founders, Jim Brooks, earlier this year. This Dover was one of the races that he won in the IndyCar He won 13 races in the IndyCar. I believe just under 20 races overall amongst all the various leagues that Area 51 runs. But this was one of his, I know one of his favorite tracks, and he ended up winning it back in 2021. So it's good. It felt good for me to get the win, and I'm going to dedicate this to be in his memory, because it feels good. With that, I'm going to say that we will be having a memorial race for him on June the 30th. Information about it will be forthcoming to all of our fans and to the league. Hope everyone can join us at Pocono. Jim over at 4D Racewear. He couldn't make the race tonight, unfortunately. So, but he is as Chris said, a good sponsor for our team, but also just for the league in general and for all of the broadcasts and for all of the IndyCar stuff that iRacing puts on. He is a big supporter. And we, for all the guys that are going down to Indy this weekend, have fun, enjoy, and I wish I could be there.
So what you're telling me is I need to leave Stouffer exactly as I found him last year. Is that what you're saying?
Face down in a ditch.
It wasn't quite that bad. I think we sat him down at a picnic table about an hour before the race started and left him in the custody of left him in the custody of others. But it's always a good time, Craig. And one of these days you'll make it to Indianapolis, and you can be part of the celebrations that are always around the Indianapolis 500. I know that people think New Year's Eve, New York City, Times Square, Mardi Gras, Super Bowl, some big parties. But man, I'll give you a stat, Craig. You've been known to enjoy a refreshment, right?
Yes, I am Canadian.
So they came out with a stat in the mid-2000s, National Geographic did, based on the amount of aluminum cans collected at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway the day after the race. There is enough beer, and this is just beer, this isn't anything hard, but there is enough beer consumed at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on race day to fill up the Rose Bowl by volume, the football stadium, the Rose Bowl, by volume. That's a pretty big cup.
Okay, that's just ridiculous.
It worked out. If you say the crowd is 300,000, it works out to 8.5 a person.
But the question is, how many chicken wings did they have on top of the beer?
I don't know. I only remember the beer one just because it was so outrageous. I don't recall how much food. I do have a friend who I'm going on a cruise with actually later this year, who managed concessions at the Speedway for 4 years, and I could ask him how much they go through, but it's semi-trailers upon semi-trailers upon semi-trailers. It's ridiculous how much they go through, and they sell it all. They'll be out.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me at all.
They'll be out of hot dogs and cheeseburgers and tenderloin sandwiches, probably about 2/3 distance. You'll see them start to run out of stuff. And it's wild. And then the other cool thing is if you go to the race, you look at the pictures of the infield and it looks like a bomb hit a Budweiser distributorship, and then you look at that same picture from that same spot on Tuesday, and it's completely clean. They have volunteer groups that volunteer to go up and go through and pick up the garbage because they let them recycle the aluminum cans, and they'll have that place completely spick and span Tuesday morning. It is incredible.
That's nuts, because for a facility that large, I can't imagine how many people it takes to do something like that. So good on them for doing that.
It's remarkable. But one of these days we'll get you to the 500, Craig. Until then, we'll see you on the track here. Thank you so much for your time and the support of Area 51 and 4P1. Keep going fast and having fun, buddy. We'll see you at the next one.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Caleb. We'll see you guys at the finale in 2 weeks.
We will indeed. That's Caleb. That is Craig Forsyth, not Caleb Forsyth. We'll put him back with his teammate Chris Stouffer, and that's been the wrap at Dover. Caleb, we came here. We started the broadcast at 8:00. 9:30. We are done with interviews. We are done with interviews at essentially 7 minutes till 11. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, a caution-free IndyCar Dover race is probably never been said in the history of ever on iRacing, but we somehow managed to pull it off, and 165 laps of it, no less. That is pretty impressive by all these guys. They keep obviously there was still some carnage that didn't bring out the cautions. You know, we had a little bit of attrition, we had a little bit of argy-bargy and up and down the field, but it went by much quicker than what we were expecting when we were talking about it before the race. And usually, you know, from what we saw in the AMA, you know, it could be a bit of a caution fest, but good on these guys to be able to keep the race caution free and get this thing wrapped up pretty quickly for us.
It most certainly did, and you know, it's a pleasure to call a race like that because, you know, frankly, one, it goes by pretty quick, but the other is that there was plenty of action up and down the field. There were some spicy battles throughout that lead pack, and it was a lot of fun to see. And if you want to see more of that, tune it in tomorrow night. The Horizon IndyCar Series goes off at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for the Topes Soaps 250. Topes Soaps 250. That's going to happen at 8 o'clock, and that is the Horizon IndyCar Series season finale. I believe it's season 3 for them. And so that's the finale. That'll go off at 8 o'clock. Ryan Eric King and I on the call. Thursday night, the AMA Outland Custom Arms Grand National Series, 8:20 p.m. 8:35 race start for Charlotte. Friday night, Caleb and I will be back for the AMA Archway Industrial Coatings Truck Series. Again, 8:20 pre-race, 8:35 race start. On Saturday, 2 o'clock, the 2026 iRacing IndyCar Series presented by 40 Racewear, 2 p.m. on Saturday. There will be nobody manning the P1 broadcasting booth on Sunday. It is the greatest spectacle in racing in the Indianapolis 500. As a reminder, there is no open top split broadcast next Monday, nor an Indy Next broadcast Monday in observance of Memorial Day, and that brings us back to Tuesday when we'll have the IndyCar Oval Series Tuesday night top split from Gateway, 8:15 Eastern Standard Time, and then the Indy Next Oval Series Tuesday night top split next Tuesday at 9:30. The next Area 51 race is going to happen not in the month of May. So for Area 51, the next race is scheduled for June the 2nd. So 2 weeks from today, they'll be at Gateway. 9:30 race start from Gateway for Area 51. And we look forward to seeing you there. We will crown a champion 2 weeks from today. Gateway, 9:30 on P1. We want to thank all of the drivers for a tremendous race tonight. We want to thank the fans in the stands. I want to thank Caleb Brashear for jumping in at short notice, filling in for the traveling Andrew Wood. But we really want to thank all the people who really make it possible. The military, the police, the firemen, the EMTs driving the ambulance. And Caleb, we'd be remiss if we didn't thank the nurse that unloads you when they get you there. From the bottom of our hearts, we thank you all, and we will see you tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, for the Horizon IndyCar Series on P1. Get a good night's sleep, everybody.
Strap in, feel the hum in your hands. This is 4D. Heat on my palms, grip locked, heart racing. Shoes hit the pedal, whole room shaking. Jersey on my back, hat pulled low and blazing. Every turn I take, got the ghosts I'm chasing. 4D in my veins, feel that fire when I play, when I move, when I break, when I bang through the lane. 4D on my skin, when I lose, when I win, I'm alive in the light of the game I'm in. 4D, 4D, 4D. It's different. Yeah.